This is the New Tech Today workshop series. The second in our series this year is Not Your Grandparents' Heat Pump, specifically about the air source, heat pumps that we are rebating with Middleborough Gas and Electric Department. And we wanted to talk about this new, relatively evolving technology that is conditioning space today and working better than it ever has. I hope you'll enjoy the theme of coming out of the 60s and 70s and even the 80s, and how this technology has evolved to the point where it is one of the most efficient, energy efficient technologies in use today to heat and to cool your home. We are reminding everyone who's attending this workshop session that we are absolutely recording, and it's not only that, it's likely being live streamed both in Middleborough and in Lakeville. We are focusing today on air source heat pumps in our service area, Middleborough Gas and Electric service area. We want to talk about how they work, what this new technology really is, the fact that it's been around for a while, but it has evolved, what the cost is, and we have a lot of resources to share with you, and we'll be answering a lot of questions as well. We ask everyone to stay muted, please, and to keep your video off so that we can focus on the screens on the slide. So to begin with, I'm going to introduce the people who are managing this workshop today. I'm Sandy Richter, from the Public Communications Manager from the Middleborough Gas and Electric Department. I'm also the Energy Services Administrator and the person that most people talk to regarding their energy audits and their energy rebates. So you may have talked with me already. I want to introduce Kyle Holmberg. Kyle, if you can make there you go, give us a little wave there. Kyle is my colleague at Middleborough Gas and Electric Department, and he will be manning the polls and the videos tonight and watching your comments and your questions. If we aren't answering, if you post a question or a comment and we aren't responding to it right away, Kyle's keeping an eye on it because he knows what's coming up next, and then we may well answer your question in the material that's coming up. So don't be alarmed if we aren't responding immediately. But Kyle will let us know if we need to add a question or respond to you right away. Thank you very much, Kyle.
Thank you.
I also want to introduce Christopher Herringa from Abode Energy Management. Thank you very much, Chris. Hello. Christopher is the person who works with our customers through our energy partnership with Abode. They are experts on heat pump technology and how to incorporate it and use it most efficiently in your home. And we're very glad to have him here tonight. He's going to be presenting a lot of information, and we're going to be having hopefully a lot of fun going over what this new technology, relatively speaking, evolving technology is today for our customers and our homeowners. So now that you've met us, what we want to do first is to learn a little bit about you. We have some polls tonight. We're going to ask you to participate by answering our poll questions. So Kyle, do you have that first poll up and running? We need to know your interest in heat pumps and why you're attending this session. There we go. We'll give everyone a minute to submit their answers. And I hope everyone loves ABBA. Nod to the 70s and 80s. This is going to help us know what to focus on as we go through this session today. And here we have the results. Okay, so the majority of people are considering replacing their oil or gas systems. We've got a skeptic in the audience. Thank you very much. I always like good skeptics. And we've got someone already planning to buy, some curious, and just like me, someone who has installed a system already and might have some questions about running it well and to the maximum efficiency. All right, we have a second poll for you. And that's basically, what is your biggest concern that might be stopping you from making the switch or the installation of a heat pump in your home today? We'll give everyone a moment to think about this. And then perhaps we're ready to look at that information now. Okay, well, good. There's not too many that don't trust the technology, but we're pretty much split between if you can afford it or if it will work on cold, truly frigid days. And those are probably the two most prevalent questions that we get when it comes to this technology. And not if you agree with me, Christopher. I think that's pretty much the focus most people go for. Okay, so Christopher, let's get you in on this right now. Do you have any survey information about heat pump use that you'd like to share with us? I think we have a slide if you want us to go to that.
Yeah, definitely. So this chart shows the breakdown of the year built of homes who have adopted heat pumps in our programs. So for example, of the homes that have installed heat pumps, 23% were built between 1941 and 1960, and the same percentage of heat pump adopters had homes built between 1961 and 1980. And so homes of all ages and sizes are installing air source heat pumps. And 67% of homeowners purchase heat pumps to reduce or stop using their fossil fuel system.
So I want to jump in here for just a moment and let everyone know that we know that the prevalent age of homes built in Middleborough right now is still between 1941 and 1980. So the largest share of what you see there is really reflective of the housing stock in Middleborough. Lakeville skews a little bit newer, but that is what we find in Middleborough. I think you have another slide too.
Yeah, so here we can see how much of the home heat pump adopters are typically heating and cooling with heat pumps. This doesn't mean that they have removed their old heating systems, but that the heat pumps they installed heat and cool that percentage of their home's square footage. So this data is from nearly 200 installs in Massachusetts that have occurred over the past year and a half or so. And so, for example, 34% of homeowners are choosing to heat and cool 100% of their house with heat pumps. And 89% of heat pump adopters keep their existing system in place. It may run at the same time, but heat a different area than the heat pumps, or it could be used as backup.
So in my case, I'm into that 89% group because I added a room, or actually expanded a loft, and added square footage to my home that needed to be heated. And while people are thinking heating and air conditioning, this was truly mainly heat in my mind. I added a mini split single source in one room, large open loft room, but that is, I fall into that category. I think a lot of people start in that way. If at least that seems like what we're seeing or what we're hearing from our customers. So. Well, thank you for that. Now we are going to move into some basics here so that we can really talk about the technology and how far it's come. This is a technology, I keep alluding to this, that's been evolving for decades. And I mean decades, like I've been evolving for decades. We're going to go into the basics here a little bit about how, what the heat pump is and how it works. Now, we're going to look at a video here produced by our friends in Ireland, because this technology really has been mainly around in Ireland and across the pond, so to speak, a lot more than it's been here. We're going to make a distinction between the way they use it in Europe versus the way we're talking about here. But let's watch this fun commercial right now. I don't think we're hearing the sound yet.
Did you know that fossil fuel boilers are major contributors to Ireland's carbon emissions? If you're using oil, gas or solid fuels, then you may be interested in a renewable heating system called a heat pump, which is a healthier, cheaper, more comfortable way to heat your home and has a significantly lower carbon footprint. In this short animation, we want to explain the fundamentals of how a heat pump works and its benefits. A heat pump is a device that extracts heat from our environment, upgrades it to a higher temperature and moves it into your home. A heat pump contains a fluid that quietly and efficiently harvests and absorbs the heat from the air or ground surrounding your home. The heat pump then compresses the fluid and raises it to a suitable temperature. The heat from the fluid is then transferred to the water in your heating system, including your radiators or underfloor heating, as well as your hot water tank. Electricity is used in this reliable process, and for every unit used, 3 to 4 units of heat are produced, making it extremely efficient. Heat pumps have simple and excellent controls, keeping your home very comfortable at all times, never too hot or too cold, and set to suit your personal comfort level. They are up to 30% cheaper to run and are commonly fitted in new homes or retrofitted in older homes, replacing an existing oil or gas boiler, and work best in homes that are well insulated. Heat pumps require minimal maintenance and have a longer lifespan than conventional boilers. In colder climates, particularly in Scandinavia, heat pump technology is already the most popular and reliable system of home heating. Winter temperatures in these countries are much colder than Ireland, and so heat pumps can provide more than sufficient heating here also. With new improved grants available for both the heat pump and insulation, now is the time to embrace this modern and efficient heating system, which will provide all your heating and hot water needs. For more information, go to esb.ie/brighter future and seai.ie.
Wasn't that fun? I love a good brogue. At any rate, this is obvious that this is a different kind of setup, perhaps, than we're talking about, because we're focusing on air source heat pumps and something that transfers to the air in your home. Christopher, please nod if I'm correct here, but I'm pretty sure. Yes, what they were talking about, and that was a little bit of a dated commercial. It was from a couple of years ago, I think. But obviously, it was the same kind of heat transfer technology. It's just used on what we call hydronic systems or for water systems, as opposed to blowing air. And the majority of the heat pumps installed in our country pretty much are air source. Am I right about that, Christopher?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did I read correctly that today's air source heat pumps are more efficient than a hydronic or heat to water system?
Yeah, we'll get into some of the hydronic stuff in a little bit, but they're called air to heat because they put the heat into the water, the hydronic system. And right now, that technology is still kind of emerging in our market. And there are some considerations folks have to make to try and get a system like that to work with a standard traditional existing hydronic system in a house. There's some different things that would have to be looked at, the type of baseboard heating you have and things like that if it were going to work correctly. So many times folks go with the air-to-air systems, which are the type that we're looking at today, that just transfer the heat to a type of indoor air handler that blows air in through the home. And those are really easily installed and retrofitted into all kinds of existing homes. So they're taking off in this market as a quick and easy way to transition yourselves away from fossil fuels.
Fantastic. So while we've got your slide up, why don't you tell us what we're looking at here?
Yeah, so they covered how heat pumps work a little bit in that little video there. So I thought we'd just rehash that just to make sure we all understand. And so a heat pump is a versatile, efficient cooling and heating system that operates using electricity. So heat pumps do not burn any fuel, and they move heat from one place to another. So to provide heat, a heat pump works by extracting heat from the outside air of your home and transferring it to a refrigerant. And it can do this even when it's really cold outside. The refrigerant is then compressed, which increases the temperature significantly. So then the hot refrigerant is then moved to the indoor unit of the heat pump, which then passes air over the hot refrigerant and transfers heat to the indoor air. And when in cooling mode, a heat pump and an air conditioner are functionally identical. So when in cooling mode, the refrigerant moving to the indoor unit of the heat pump is very cold, transferring cool air to the space. So in essence, it is absorbing heat from the indoor air and actually releasing it through the outdoor unit.
Fantastic. Just to bring it all home very quickly, why we're all here today, people may have been thinking that from trends and changes recently that we might consider this a brand new technology. But if you can remember the 80s, the 70s, and even the 60s, if you remember vinyl records and even videotape, then you might remember the first generation of heat pumps. They were mostly ground source, not nearly as efficient. Today, we're going to show you how far they've come and answer any questions you have about how to use them and save the most energy. We're going to start off with a little bit about what you think you know with a few polls. And our first poll has to do with when was this technology first patented? How old do you think this technology is? Everyone, give us your thoughts on that real quick. Now, we're not trying to stump you, but we do want to give you a little frame of reference here. It takes time for all technologies to evolve. It takes a lot of use first. We're at the point where we're at a very good point with this technology today. Do we have answers yet, Kyle? Here we go. All right, 25% of you got it right. It was before that. It was before the 50s, 70s, 80s, 60s, well before that. As a matter of fact, the answer is 1902. Willis Carrier patented the technology that we know as air conditioning. He patented it to dehumidify air in a factory. And this is basically the same way heat is moved from one space to another today. So let's try another poll here. When do you think that heat pumps began to replace central air conditioners? 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s? I get to answer too, and I know the right answer. Some of us were around when this actually started happening, and I want to throw my 2 cents in on that. I do recall when all of this was happening. That might give you a little bit of a clue. I'm older than you realize. And do we have answers, Kyle? Okay, people did go as far back as the 60s, but the true answer is the 1970s. Yep, this was during the 1970s oil embargo. If you've been around long enough, you might remember Jimmy Carter sitting there. That's President Jimmy Carter sitting there, what was called fireside chats, even back then, trying to encourage us all to really save energy because oil supplies were cut off and very limited. And gasoline prices went from, about 25 cents per gallon all the way up over $1. And it was a shocking period of time. But everyone started to go for electric heat in a very big way. And that is a time when this technology, especially the ground source heat pump, came into being. Generally, people had to dig a well, mainly replace their central AC with ductwork that was already in place. We'll talk about the problems that they experienced another time, but basically, people had a lot of problems with ground source heat pumps back in the 70s. We have one more trivia poll, I think, Kyle? Yes, how much has the efficiency increased? And this is a big part of that issue. Yep. Okay, so we have choices. And I'll fill in. Uh-oh. Give everybody a minute to answer. And this is from the 70s to 40 plus years later. And we have answers. There we go. Okay. So majority think 90, actually majority think over 150%. And you know what? Both the 90%ers and the 150%ers are right, because this was a trick question. Basically, there are two parts to your air source heat pump. At one part heats and one part cools. So over 150% more efficiency for the SEER ratings, and that is the Seasonal Energy Efficiency Rating. Did I get that right, Christopher?
Seasonal energy efficiency ratio.
Ratio. Darn it, I hate it when I get it wrong, and Kyle got it right a while. And the cooling rating, which is the HSPF, I'm not even going to try. I can't do it. Heating system.
That's the heating
system
performance factor.
That's it, seasonal performance factor. And that went up by 90%. So we used to see a SEER rating of 6 and an HSPF of 5. Today we see a SEER rating of 16 and an HSPF of 9.5. Can you talk a little bit about what those ratings really mean, Christopher?
Yeah, sure. So the SEER is going to be calculated by looking at a variety of outdoor temperatures that we see during the cooling season. And so they test the units at those different temperatures to see how efficient they are, and they put them together to create SEER. And the same thing is for the HSPF. So they test it at different outdoor temperatures, see how efficient it is, and combine that data to provide a factor that kind of looks at how efficient is this thing over the whole course of a heating or cooling season.
And obviously the technology has changed significantly to bring those ratings up from that level. Are there any specifics that you can point to that say why that technology is improved?
Yeah, the air source heat pumps have become so much more efficient for quite a few number of reasons, but some of those would be the big breakthroughs like inverter-driven variable speed compressors and fan motors. So these allow heat pumps to vary their heating or cooling output to match what a space needs at any time. We also have better compressors and electronic expansion valves, which maximize the use of the refrigerant within the heat pump. And we also have a better variety of indoor units that can circulate the air better and help us be more comfortable. Some of which even have IR sensors to see where we are in the room to avoid blowing air right at us. So they help with comfort in that regard. And plus, sorry.
Go ahead. That's all right.
Plus, we just have better and safer refrigerants than we used to in the past.
Okay, good. And I was going to say that part about blowing air on people was one of the #1 complaints back in the day for the systems that were installed in the 70s and 80s. We'd hear it all the time from customers. And yes, I did work at Middleborough Gas and Electric Department in the late 80s. And that was their #1 complaint, that and the amount of electricity that those systems used, because they weren't yet really capable of handling the ultra cold temperatures that we would get in the Northeast. So that has come a long way as well. I think we have a slide or two now from Christopher. There we go, talking about the categories of and styles of heat pumps.
Yeah, so we're seeing a lot of diversification in the types of configurations of air source heat pumps. So let's go through that a little bit. We have air-to-air heat pumps, or heat pumps that use the air outside to heat or cool the air inside. And they're the biggest share of the market today. And this has been driven by the growth of ductless air source heat pump systems, or ductless mini splits, you may have heard of them called. And that's probably what most people are familiar with and have seen in homes, shops, or restaurants in the area. But that is just one of the configurations that you can use in the air-to-air category. You can use more traditionally centrally ducted systems. You can use one-to-one systems that are just one outdoor unit with one indoor unit, like a ductless mini split. And there are even multi-zone systems now that you can match to one outdoor unit with multiple indoor systems. And there's everything in between in terms of combining the different indoor units, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But a few reasons why air-to-air is the leader. The install of ductless units is quick and relatively straightforward. They're versatile and compatible enough to work in most existing homes, and they can help offset or provide all of your heating and cooling needs. And they're the lowest cost to install compared to many other types of heat pumps.
Okay, very good. I think
So the next category we might look at is air to water.
oh, excuse me.
Oh, still back on that one, yeah. So air to water, this is another of the cool opportunities. So using the same technology, but transferring heat throughout the home with water. And that heat is also taken from the outside air and put into the water. And that's transferred around the home with hydronic systems that use baseboards or radiators or radiant floor heating. And there's a lot of really cool opportunities out there with new construction, but some challenges on the retrofit side with existing hydronic systems. So the hot water generated by air to water heat pumps is not as hot as the water generated by traditional boiler systems like oil boilers or gas boilers, etc. And the lower temperature water from the air to water heat pumps requires a different type of hot water baseboard or radiator to keep the house warm enough when it is cold outside. So it's not always a good fit when trying to replace a boiler, and you can still consider air to air heat pumps as an alternative. But as this technology develops in the years ahead, we will likely see this becoming more of a possibility as a replacement for a boiler.
But you mentioned,
yeah, sorry.
Just to jump in there for a second, because I think I've seen a couple of comments, but you did mention that for new construction, that air to water is a possibility today. Is that true?
Yeah, certainly. You can use air to water heat pumps in new construction homes. They can design it usually with radiant floor heating. And it's a great way to use a heat pump to provide all your heating needs. New homes are very well insulated, and you can plan ahead and design how you heat the house, the distribution type that you have. Often it's radiant floor heating they use with air to water heat pumps.
Very good, thank you.
And then there are also ground source heat pumps or geothermal. And so that's probably what you've heard them called before. And similarly, you're harvesting that energy from the ground or from water instead of the air. And you can distribute that into your home in multiple ways, whether you're doing it through air handlers or hydronic systems like radiant floor. So there are a lot of ways to mix and match this technology depending on your needs and preferences. Today, we're focused on air-to-air systems. So I want to focus a bit more on the carbon emissions of air-to-air heat pumps versus traditional systems. And so this chart examines how many tons of CO2 emissions heat pumps have versus traditional heating systems over the course of 20 years. So including emissions from the fuel, heat pumps have the lowest emissions. However, heat pump operating emissions are indirect. So air source heat pumps have no direct emissions from the operation of the unit itself, whereas fossil fuel systems burn fuel at the unit and have direct emissions from operation. So this chart uses New England's 2019 electricity generation mix to calculate emissions for heat pumps. The cleaner the electricity is produced, the cleaner the air source heat pumps will become. And if you are purchasing solely renewable energy or have enough solar at your house, your operating emissions would technically be zero. So MGED's electricity generation mix is even cleaner than the representation above. So operating a heat pump in MGED's service area will have even lower emissions. Plus, another nice thing about being a customer of a Unilight plant like MGED, they have the opportunity to be more progressive and expedite the adoption of cleaner energy versus larger entities. And so just a few key points to remember from this slide is that energy production is getting cleaner every year, which means heat pumps' carbon emissions are reduced year after year as well. And heat pumps over the lifetime of operation already have the lowest emissions.
Thank you very much for those compliments. I thought I heard them in there. And we also want to mention that, yes, we have a commitment to cleaner and cleaner energy, non-emitting energy supplies. So this is going to make a difference. Another avenue here that we'll talk about later in this session is about cost, and we have an even bigger benefit to talk about there. But in this case, this is our nod to birthday today and letting everyone know that yes, this is going to work very well for the fuel mix for Middleborough Gas and Electric Department customers. So to give us just one final review of how these systems work, we did find a video, and it is basically a commercial. We'll apologize right now for Mitsubishi. But that said, what it's got in it, it really shows the technology, how it works for air-to-air source heat pumps and mini splits in particular, and their benefits. So we'll just show that now and go on from there.
In the past, conventional heat pump systems were known for their poor efficiency and performance in cold weather temperatures. But that was then. This is today. Mitsubishi Electric Cooling and Heating's revolutionary heat pump technology and our zoned comfort solutions can give everyone in your home total personalized comfort year-round, even in sub-zero temperatures. Here's how they work. Mitsubishi Electric's ultra-efficient heat pump systems consist of an indoor air handling unit and an outdoor condensing unit, which are connected via 2 refrigerant lines. Together, they work to efficiently transfer the desired cooling or heating energy to your personalized comfort zones. In summer, air conditioning is produced when heat energy from inside your home is absorbed by the system's refrigerant and transferred to the outdoor air. In winter, the refrigerant cycle is reversed, and the system extracts heat from the outdoor air and transfers it inside to heat your home. For those requiring high-performance heating in colder temperatures and climates, our expert engineers have developed hyperheating inverter technology. Our hyperheating outdoor units use an enhanced compressor design to continue extracting heat energy, even when the true outdoor temperature reaches down to -13 degrees Fahrenheit. When compared to other fossil fuel burning heating systems, our modern heat pumps provide exceptional heating performance while being a greener, more environmentally friendly option for your home. All of this is possible due to our advanced variable speed inverter compressor technology, which results in our systems using up to 40% less energy than conventional systems. In addition, a single outdoor unit can control up to 8 indoor units for added comfort and efficiency, with multiple styles available for added versatility. Our indoor units also feature true air filtration for your home, resulting in improved air quality with whisper quiet operation, perfect for any home, even a baby's nursery. For close to 100 years, Mitsubishi Electric has built a global reputation on quality and reliability. Our innovations continue to make cooling and heating more efficient, comfortable, and healthy. For more information, visit us at MitsubishiComfort.com. Mitsubishi Electric Cooling and Heating. Make comfort personal.
Thanks, Kyle. Obviously, we are not advocating for Mitsubishi in particular. They are one of the main resources or producers of these units, but we thought that that commercial was particularly telling and showing very good illustration. And we don't want to try and reinvent the wheel to show you how these systems work. So we use that commercial. We hope you'll let us indulge us just a little bit there. Did you see anything wrong in there, Christopher, with, I know it's a little bit dated. I think the technology is still just about right. It pretty much matches with what you said.
Yeah, it seems fine.
Okay, good. Well, now we're going to move right on to one of the biggest issues that comes out when people ask us about heat pump technology, and that is the cost savings. We want to talk a little bit about the math and what the actual savings are, comparing the cost of actual heat produced by oil or gas or propane or electric baseboard to the energy produced by heat pumps. So I think we have a slide for Abode about the heating types. There we go. This is a great one. What can you say?
Thanks. Yeah. So we'll take a look here at the operating cost of heat pumps in MGED service area. So this chart uses MGED's residential cost of electricity per kilowatt hour to represent the operating cost of an air source heat pump during the heating season. And it uses 14.6 cents per kilowatt hour as the all-in rate for residential customers. And so heat pumps are 2 to 4 times as efficient as a gas furnace, even in the coldest climates. This technology has come a long way from traditional electric heating and offers efficiency that fossil fuels just can't match. Air source heat pumps deliver heat at progressively lower costs, the warmer the outdoor temperature. So as you can see in the chart, we spend about 80% of our heating season between 32 degrees and above, and only about 20% below freezing. So the overall average of the season is represented by the green bar with the arrow, and the bars following it to the right show the cost depending on the outdoor temperature. As you can see, it's highly cost competitive against all other fuel types and really matches natural gas. While some customers opt to keep their existing systems for days when it's extremely cold, many households will use heat pumps year-round and are still very comfortable. And also noting the value of cooling as well, air source heat pumps are extremely efficient at providing cooling in the summertime. On average, heat pumps are twice as efficient as window ACs, and many models offer improved efficiency over central air as well. And so just a few key points to remember: that heat pump operating cost is cheaper than oil, propane, wood pellets, and electric resistance. And second, the cost of electricity is much more steady and predictable compared to fossil fuels over time. So if you're going with a heat pump, if you look in 5-10 years in the future, it's hard to say, what a fossil fuels may cost us, that far down the line. But as far as electricity goes, it's very predictable, very incremental in its increase in price. And so it's a safe bet in that regard.
This is excellent. And I think this answers a lot of questions for people in terms of operating your system. What's it going to cost compared to what else I'd be displacing, or what I could at least be saving? We need to make a little bit of a disclaimer, not a disclaimer, but a claimer, I guess I'll call it. Yes, these are based on the electric costs for the heat pump technology is based on Middleborough Gas and Electric Departments, all in current residential electric rates. We also need to say that the natural gas expressed here is for Middleborough Gas and Electric Department as well. This is represented by our actual current natural gas rates for typical winter heating costs. Now, that said, we did just drop our gas rates in February. So this would have been a little higher if we were talking about this in January. But right now, based on current rates, this is where we are. And that's why you can see how natural gas is a lower cost alternative all around, but not a lot. And it does tend to fluctuate, and we'll see where it's going to be. The idea is, if you were considering an alternative to natural gas, you wanted to change your boiler, and you wanted a system that combines cooling with your heating, and you had a specific installation that you're looking at, maybe an add-on, some kind of renovation, this is a great alternative that isn't much more expensive than our natural gas systems today. So in Middleborough Gas and Electric Department service area.
And I would note, Sandy, as well, if you look at the 80% of the heating season section, which is between 32 degrees and 60 degrees, the heat pumps are providing that heat at a cheaper cost than you can with natural gas. And so we have a big portion of the heating season that you can heat more cost effectively with the heat pump. So it can still be a great thing to install in a house, even if you have natural gas, and you can use it for 80% of the heating season, like all of our shoulder seasons, aside from like maybe January and February, part of December.
Exactly right. We believe in people putting their toes in first and then realizing how well it works, and then go ahead and turn it on all the way and make your natural gas thermostat subordinate. We'll talk about that a little bit later too. But what we also want to remind people is that if you're installing a new system like this and you're offsetting or completely replacing the other way that you heat your home, we want you to remember that you'll be reducing or eliminating your bill for oil or gas or propane, but you'll be adding to your electric bill. So it shouldn't be a surprise that that bill goes up while your other bills are reduced significantly. So fantastic. We also, Christopher, we know that there are a lot of situations that are perfect for heat pumps, even if they aren't replacing heating or AC systems. What have you seen? I think we've got another slide here too. Kyle, do we have the next slide, please?
Yeah, Tom actually just raised a pretty good question
Oh, okay.
in the chat. He said, at what temperature were the heating costs per MMBTU figured for the other fuels in your chart?
So we take so at what temperature? So that's like the seasonal temperature we're looking at here. So we take the whole heating season and look at that, and you're going to be looking at the average efficiencies of these systems and how much it costs to create a MMBTU of heat. And so like an oil boiler, it doesn't really matter what temperature it is outside. That oil boiler is going to be creating a certain amount of MMBTUs per a gallon of oil, and how much that gallon of oil costs, etc. So the heat pump, since it's getting its energy from the outside air, depending on the outside temperature, that will fluctuate how efficient the heat pump is able to generate that heat. But for your other systems, they're not really dependent on the outdoor temperature. They're going to be able to create their amount of heat at a specific cost with their efficiency in mind, regardless of what temperature it is outside.
And another point to be made here, all things being equal, because we don't live in a vacuum, your house and its tightness, weather tightness, is going to be the same factor, whether it's propane, oil, wood pellets, or a mini split. Isn't that correct? That you're going to lose heat at the same rate, no matter which of these technologies you're employing.
Yeah, so yeah, in a given house, no matter which one you go to, you have a certain amount of heat loss per hour. And so when you're looking at adopting technology like heat pumps, it's always a good idea to also look at how can I tighten my house up? How can I better insulate my house? And that's overall just going to continue to help you reduce your costs to heat and cool your home.
Very good. So do we have the next slide, Kyle?
Yeah, so the ductless units are versatile enough that you can size them to heat and cool large open areas or even small bedrooms or offices. And so there's a lot of form factors when it comes to ductless systems, starting with the wall hung unit on the left that most of us are familiar with. You can get a floor mount unit that looks a little bit more like a floor radiator, at least in where it would sit. And then the ceiling cassettes that go in the ceiling. The bottom picture on the ceiling cassettes category is a bit of a newer product that does a better job of fitting between the joists and the ceilings, which was previously an issue in terms of fitting some of the ceiling cassettes in. And again, there are new technologies coming out all the time to make installing this new technology very practical. So it's always good to keep your eyes out.
I love that because for myself too, I mean, I have other rooms that I'd like to be using the technology in, but there just doesn't seem to be any place to hang a unit, so to know that you can put it directly into the ceiling and still use the same kind of outdoor unit, that's fantastic. I think that definitely ups the flexibility of the technology for me. And I think you have another slide as well.
Yeah, so we're also seeing more and more ducted systems, mini ducts and compact ducts. So we have a lot of different names, but essentially the mini and compact ducted units can be set up with some amount of short run ductwork that allows you to use one unit and impact a few different smaller rooms. And so these units can be used in parts of the home where the bedrooms and bath are located so that each room doesn't require a ductless unit. These units are growing in popularity, but the industry is still more comfortable with centrally ducted units. And we're here to help you find the contractor if these units make sense for you.
Well, that's fantastic. You've led right into our next steps that we want to talk about. The big step that we want people to take away from this session tonight is that we are here to help, because this certainly can be somewhat overwhelming to anyone that doesn't understand the technology. And that's why we're working with Christopher and with Abode for our customers. We know that if you want to plan a purchase, if you're just starting out, you need to find a contractor. You want to qualify, definitely you want to qualify for MGED rebates, or you're just beginning to learn about it. We are working with Abode Energy Management as our energy services partner, and they have the expertise, all of the information, if it's not apparent tonight with Christopher here, about the technology as it's evolving, the state that it's in right now, and how it can work in your home. And I have heard this so often from our customers. They're always asking us to provide them some way, some knowledge of who do I call, who do I reach out to, where do I find a contractor, how much is this going to cost? We are not the experts, but the folks at Abode and Christopher are. And that is why he's here tonight, not just to answer questions tonight, but for your specific questions. When you need answers, you want to reach them. And we also want to add here the way to begin to qualify for Middleborough Gas Electric Department rebates, and this is very important, is to have an energy audit of your home. Now, I know a lot of people have already over the years have had a free home energy audit provided by Middleborough Gas Electric Department, and in particular, Energy New England, which is another one of our partners. But that said, if you haven't had an energy audit in the last few years, we have a much more in-depth audit, a much more in-depth look at the energy systems in your home and the levels of insulation. And we'd really like to get you to get a refreshed audit before you go for this new technology. A lot of our other rebates also are pre-qualified by having an energy audit in your home. Of course, right now, everything is still remote, but we've found ways to get through that. Online auditing, a lot of different methods, but we'd like you to contact Energy New England to get your audit done if you don't have one that's less than 3 years old. Then you definitely, or even before, you definitely want to reach out to talk to Christopher to start sizing up what your options are for this service. Now, I think, Christopher, you've got some more information about why a customer should talk with you before they plan a purchase. And I think that might be the next slide.
That's not the right one, but we'll be getting there in a couple slides, I think.
Okay.
Just this one's just to kind of give you some more context on who we are at Abode, just so you know who you're talking to. So the way we try to picture it is we understand the goals of you as a consumer, contractors, and the goals of the MLP. And so we have backgrounds as contractors, program administrators, utility consultants, lead vendors, and this gives us a unique perspective on the goals of these different stakeholder groups. And so we're also customers in these programs too. Many of us have heat pumps. We've taken advantage of home energy audits, all that stuff. And so being able to evaluate every situation with these different lenses helps us support folks throughout their entire projects. And so even here, this picture on the right is a photo of our VP of operations doing a deep energy retrofit on his own home a few years back.
Oh my God, that's a great shot. Okay, great. Well, we also, again, saying that you need to, I like that plug, you've got to get your home energy audit first. Please do that. We want to talk about what rebates people will be qualifying for. And so just to go over this really quickly, we do offer a $500 per ton rebate to a maximum of $2,000. And this is for both the single zone ductless mini split and the central or multi-split ducted mini split. And those are the rating minimums, the efficiency rating minimums. Can you speak for just a moment, Christopher, on what the difference is between the two and why the rating minimums are a little bit lower for the central or multi-split ducted mini splits?
Sure, yeah. So the single zone ductless mini splits, so that means 1 outdoor unit to 1 indoor unit. Those units can easily achieve really high efficiencies. And so it'll be a breeze for you to get a rebate efficiency-wise with those types of systems. With the central multi-split and ducted mini splits, central systems may be designed to, service a large area. The multi-zone units, those also could be servicing a large area. And the efficiencies are going to be slightly lower on those units because they're servicing a bigger area. And so to allow folks adopting that type of technology to still meet the rebate and efficiency requirements, the efficiencies are just slightly lower, and that just opens up the market and still lets folks adopt that type of technology too.
Fantastic, thank you. I also want to put a plug in here for the what we call a bonus, an extra $500 to anyone who is replacing a central AC system or older heat pump. And when I say older heat pump, there are still older ground source heat pumps out there that do need upgrading. And a lot of central AC systems that were put in 2000, between 2000 and 2010 that are starting to come of age, we like to say. It's time for them to go. And if you want to consider this new heat pump technology to replace your central AC, we've got an adder in our rebates, and we wanted to point those out too. But once again, you need to have your home free home energy audit in order to qualify for these rebates. Okay, and the next slide, yes, this is how to schedule. Beg your pardon, Christopher. I hope you don't mind looking at Saturday Night Fever and the wonderful dancer. But basically what we're saying is we want people to reach out and talk to Christopher directly. And the way this happens, Christopher, they're scheduling a call. Is that how that happens now?
Yeah, so there's just that quick link right there. If you click that, it'll bring you to a little menu to give me a little bit of information about, what's going on, what can I help you with. You'll pick a time that works for you, and then I'll call you at the given time, and you put your email in there. It'll send you some email reminders. It's nice and easy. And if you ever can't find a time that's suitable for you on my calendar, we have other folks at Abode that can help out. So on the left, there's a link that you can click to fill in just a little quick survey that will send an email to us, and we'll reach out and call you, and we'll get you scheduled with somebody else at Abode in case you can't find some time on my calendar.
Well, fantastic. And we are going to, again, have a slide at the very end of this session coming up that is going to have all of these contacts. So you'll be able to see this again. You don't have to stop here. You'll see it at the end of the session. So I think we do have, the next slide is yours, Christopher, to talk about what you do.
Yeah, so just to give you some idea of what I'm actually going to talk to you about, and as Sandy mentioned, one of the biggest ways Abode can help residents is through this no-cost consultations that are provided by MGED through Abode. And so you can set a time with me using that link on the previous slide, and like she said, we'll show that to you again at the end. But during these consultations, we're going to work to understand your goals, your motivations, your home's needs, so we can help you make an informed decision with confidence. And through these consultations, we're happy to cover whatever your needs are. So whether it's a general conversation about what heat pumps are and how they work, or if you need some support evaluating multiple bids, we're here to help. And at the end of the day, we want you to be prepared to move forward with heat pumps with a contractor of your choosing, if it makes sense. And so the upfront advice that we provide is intended to be a starting point for most folks, and your contractor who is in your home, taking real measurements, doing load calculations, and assessing site conditions should be best situated to properly size and design a system that meets your needs. And when you have questions, though, we're always here to help, and we'll be here throughout the entire process.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much. And that's exactly what we want for our customers. So I'm going to just pose a few questions to you to make sure people understand how this works. Now I have, so say I've got my energy audit completed and I know how well my home is insulated and sealed. What is it that I should install? What are my choices? I think you have an upcoming slide here.
Yeah, there's plenty of stuff to consider when it comes to sizing and design considerations. And so it's important to articulate your goals and motivations to a contractor well, so that in turn you get a quote for a system design that meets your needs. So, is your goal to save money, to increase comfort, reduce your carbon footprint by reducing your fossil fuel usage? How much of the home are you trying to heat and cool? Do you plan to keep your existing system? And if so, how often do you want to use it? So if you plan to heat and cool a substantial portion of your home with air source heat pumps, I always say it's important to ask your contractor if they will run heat load calculations rather than use rule of thumb. So sizing heat pumps correctly from heat load calculations reduces the risk of performance and efficiency issues. It's just going to overall really inform appropriate sizing much better than using rule of thumb. So I always have that as one of my main recommendations. Ask for heat load calculations. And if you'll keep using your existing heating system running in tandem with an air source heat pump, it's important to consider how the existing heating system zone will interact with the area the heat pump will condition. So there are a number of good strategies to address this, including something called integrals. And integrated controls are thermostat systems, your heat pump, and your existing heating system. And if integrated controls won't work for your specific, other ways to stage the existing system and the heat pump so they work together instead of compete.
Good. And then you have how to design the design considerations.
Yeah, so as we've learned a little so far, there's many ways to design these systems to meet your needs, and you can leverage the different types of indoor units to match the needs of the space that you want to condition. And so open floor plans work great with ductless units, and 1 or 2 heads can condition a large area. Compact ducted units can service areas with isolated rooms, and small single zone units are great at supplementing heating and cooling additions to, cold or hot areas of the house that you have trouble getting comfortable, or they can be the sole heating and cooling source for an addition, or if you finish the bonus room over the garage, that kind of thing. And you can combine these different units to create strategies to heat homes. A popular design that we've been seeing for homes that one end of the house has bedrooms and bathrooms and such, and the other end of the house is an open living area. They'll put a compact ducted unit in the bedrooms area and a ductless unit in the open living concept area of the space. And you can handle the whole house with those 2 systems. And if you design it right, you could potentially get off fossil fuel that way too. It just depends on the type of heat pump you end up deciding to purchase. So you can connect multiple indoor units to one outdoor large condenser with that setup, or break it up into multiple smaller outdoor condensers to improve control and efficiency. And we'll kind of get into what that means on the next slide.
Right.
And so as I hinted there are some pros and cons to single zone versus multi-zone units. So single zone or 1-to-1 units are incredibly efficient at both heating and cooling. The outdoor condenser can connect to a ductless unit as shown, or a ducted unit, depending on the size of the outdoor condenser and the type of indoor unit. You can condition a very small room to a whole floor. Single zone units offer excellent control, comfort, and the highest efficiency. And then multi-zone or 1-to-3, as shown in the image above, can also be connected to ductless, ducted, or a combination of indoor unit types, and still providing excellent efficiency for heating or cooling. These units can handle multiple rooms, floors, or the whole house, depending on how they are configured, and your house, of course, too. So while one multi-zone unit could be configured to have enough indoor units to provide a solution for the whole home, manufacturers and the same, I'll make the same recommendation. We encourage best practice designs that break up the responsibility to multiple outdoor condensers rather than one big one. And this overall will increase efficiency, control, comfort, and reduce the risk of any performance issues for you in the long run.
Fantastic. Okay, well, I see some questions coming up about how to qualify for multiple if you're going over time. We'll address that a little bit later at the end of this, but I appreciate that, because basically what you've said, Christopher, is that you don't have to go all in all at once. You could go one system, one section of the house at a time because of the way this technology is set up. And that's my own thought process for my own home as well. And we'll have to be talking about what utilities will be doing in the future as to whether or not they can give you multiple approvals of rebates over time. And that's something that hasn't yet been considered. So it's a good question, though. So essentially, the next thing I might ask, or I constantly hear, is how do I find a contractor, and can you recommend one?
Yeah, so as part of the program, we curate a participating contractor list. And so just want to acknowledge there are a lot of contractors in the community, and despite our best efforts, they may not be on the list yet, but we're here to engage with them and explain how to file for the rebates. So we're not directly endorsing any particular contractors, but contractors on this list have passed an application process. We check to make sure they have attended relevant manufacturer trainings for the products they install, checked references on their work, and they have committed to provide high quality customer service to continue participating in the program. And they're also familiar with the pre-approval and install QA steps of the rebate process, which we'll get into shortly. So just want to let you know, customers are not required to use contractors on the participating list. As long as the pre-approval and install QA steps are followed by your contractor, you can still receive a rebate. And contractors on the list, they're already familiar with that process. But I want to get into a little bit more detail about what that pre-approval and install QA thing is that I've just been talking about.
Right, and when I look at this, I've had my own questions written down here about what we get from customers. What will a contractor do to make sure the system is doing the job right? What should I ask for? How, if I already know a contractor, who can do this? Will he be qualified? And basically, you've answered that they can pre-qualify, and you work directly with them to make sure that their quote and what they're installing will qualify for this rebate.
Yeah, if there's any questions, you can always connect us with your contractor or call us and show us the quote, and we can give you some preliminary, info. You say, yeah, the system would meet the efficiency requirements and such. And then, once there is a verbal or, signed agreement with the contractor, that's usually when the pre-approval form gets submitted. And at that point, we can pre-approve your rebate.
Fantastic. I think we want to go right to the next slide because this really wraps up exactly what you were talking about. So Kyle, yep.
Yeah, so in order to receive a rebate, your contractor needs to submit that pre-approval form prior to installation and an install quality assurance form after installation is complete. So the pre-approval form is where the contractor submits information about the home and the system that's planned to be installed. And so when we receive the pre-approval form from the contractor, we're going to consider, is the equipment reasonably sized for the space being conditioned, the type of floor plan, and the building envelope? Is the equipment selected appropriate for the type of floor plan and the intended use? And are we optimizing runtime and use with some type of heating strategy if it's working with an existing backup system? And then the install QA form is used to ensure systems meet best practice installation guidelines for cold climate air source heat pumps. And so we're going to ask the contractor to provide us key photos of the installed equipment and some site conditions, and then respond to attestation questions regarding steps of the install. And again, we're just looking out here for you at the end of the day to make sure the system was installed appropriately to avoid any performance issues down the line. And then surveys are used to ensure participating contractors and any contractors are continuing to provide great customer experiences, and we strongly encourage customers to complete them at the end of the process.
So I want to bring up one little tidbit here that you and I went through recently when there was one aspect of a customer installation that did not meet the requirement. It had to do with where the outside unit was placed. And it was very obviously not going to perform as it was supposed to be, or potentially would not perform as it was supposed to because of its placement. We talked with the customer directly, and the customer absolutely understood this and did not would let that go. They did not need the rebate because they wanted it placed where it was. But the whole point of this is that by submitting those pictures and showing exactly how everything is installed, Christopher and everyone at Abode gets to say, yeah, this is or is not installed as it should be. And the customer has to be informed, and the contractor may make a change if the customer requests it and wants to be compensated for the rebate. So it was very informing kind of a situation that happened.
Yeah,
I was very pleased.
The recommendations we're following, they're the same recommendations the manufacturers have. So this should not be a surprise to any contractor if we were to point anything out. Things like, ground mounts, because we get snow around here. You don't want your heat pump buried in snow outside, and so that it doesn't work. So heat pumps in our climates are installed on mounts that put them 18 inches above the ground so they don't get buried in snow. You can also mount it to the side of your house too. So that's just good ways to avoid any performance issues in the wintertime. You don't want a heat pump that's all iced up and covered in snow, so you just get it off the ground.
Good point. Good point to be made. So bottom line here, I just want to say something here about the experts at Abode Energy Management. They're working with Middleborough Gas and Electric to make sure that our customers have help to get the best system installed for the most efficient operation to heat and cool your home. Now, I'd like to tell you that this is a free service, but the truth is you are already paying for it. This is one of those conservation services we provide with funds from billing revenues. When you pay your electric or natural gas bill, you're paying for this service. So please take advantage of this real help when you're considering heating or cooling, this heating or cooling upgrade. We'll post the Abode contact information again at the end of this session. So please do take advantage of it. Now we need to jump on to, I think, our third and last biggest, no, actually second biggest issue. And this is going to be the cost to install. Now we're getting down to the nitty gritty, which is the upfront cost people need to know about. So typical cost to install, Christopher, you want to talk about what those factors are that might change that cost?
Yeah, definitely. And so I think as we've all learned, heat pumps can really come in a variety of shapes and sizes and designs to meet all the different shapes and sizes and needs of the homes out there. And so depending on your needs, the design that is appropriate for your home and your goals as the end user, the cost can vary greatly. And so for small ductless systems that are, single zone, 1-to-1 with the outdoor condenser and an outdoor unit, those can serve a small room. They could even be sized up big enough to serve a medium or, medium to large open concept area. You may see a cost to install a system like that from anywhere from in the 2,000 range all the way up to 6,000 range. And it just depends on the type of unit you might end up purchasing. If you were planning on installing ductwork, that does add a decent amount of labor. So if you wanted to have a compact ducted unit, that's technically a single zone unit, but services the bedroom as the end of the house, that extra labor to install that ductwork and such could bring the cost a little bit higher. And then for systems that are designed to service the entirety of a large home and provide, all or the majority of your heating and cooling needs, and that may include installing ductwork, you could see costs exceeding $25,000 or more. It just depends, again, the types of heat pumps you purchase, what your end goals are. Is there ductwork? Is there not? All that can really create a pretty big range of cost, but I just want to give you kind of like the minimum you might see, and then kind of the higher end, what you might see as well. And so it's also important to remember that your operating costs will vary depending on the system design and the outdoor temperature we discussed in a previous slide. So if you're looking to displace oil, propane, wood pellets, electric resistance, you're likely going to save money. And if you're looking to displace a moderately efficient natural gas system, your operational cost savings over the course of the whole heating season will be minimal. However, your carbon emissions will decrease significantly. So that's a nice bonus.
Yeah. We have a resource that we uncovered some time ago, and I don't know, Kyle, if we have the ability to show that right now. This is the Mass CEC link. It's a website with I don't want to say a calculator, but a resource that did have, up until 2019, had a lot of information about installers in the area and the sizes of the installations they did and the type of units, manufacturers that were involved. And if Kyle has the ability to bring it, perhaps, there we go. Okay. This is the Mass CEC site. Now, I'll be honest here, Christopher suggested we might not look at this because it's no longer collecting data. It stopped collecting data in 2019. So what we want to do is show that you can customize the data you want by clicking on, for instance, the last year, applying that, and then you want to go to the county, click or unclick all, and then go down to Plymouth County because both of our townships that we serve are in Plymouth County. When you do that, it's going to bring up only those units that were installed in this county during that year. And they're going to show by manufacturer, and obviously Mitsubishi and Fujitsu are the largest manufacturers or units that were installed. And it also shows the names of the installers who did work in these areas. Now, I still count this as a resource because at least you can get some of these names of installers and you can see the manufacturers that do make these units. What you can't count on right now is the median cost per ton. It is very much outdated. And I can speak from personal experience, but if anyone did any work on their home in the last year, 2020, when everyone was kind of stuck at home and decided to do major renovations, therefore blowing up the cost of anything that had to do with anything in the home. The cost of these units also went through the roof. So we can say with some comfort that the median cost per ton in Plymouth County right now is not necessarily $3,701, depending upon the style or any of that. Did you have some of that information yourself, Christopher?
Yes. So we collect, from around the greater Boston area and all the way down to, Middleborough where we're operating. And so, Middleborough's numbers here that we are seeing on the Mass CEC database are more in line still with what we're seeing around in that area. But, I don't want you to feel like these numbers are 100% correct and then get a quote and find that it's higher than what this tool said it will be. So just expect things to maybe be a little bit more expensive now. Like Sandy was saying, there's a lot of demand out there for this material. Units were back ordered, back last year around Thanksgiving for over a month. And so that kind of made costs even higher. Things aren't really back ordered anymore, but the increased cost is still there. And so, just want to caution the use of this tool with a little asterisk there that you shouldn't necessarily expect those prices to be exact anymore.
Fantastic. And of course, this is back looking. We appreciate that. This is in the rear view mirror. But we do also want to ask, are there any other instances or problems or issues that might affect the cost of an installation? I know we were talking with a customer the other day about the limits on where they can place their outside units due to setback requirements or homeowners associations or things like that. Have you run into any of that?
Yeah, those issues can exist. It's usually best taken care of by planning it out ahead of time, talking to a homeowner association about it, looking at what the setbacks are for your house if you have to be considerate of that, calling the town hall to speak with the appropriate person there if there is a setback issue you might be concerned about, to try to plan ahead, and that way you don't have any surprises on the day of install or after, that matter of fact.
Fantastic. Well, I think we're ready to go back to what we were planned to talk about, and that was the next and last real part of this is the use and care of a system once it is installed.
And
Yes?
really quickly before we move on, Deborah asked a couple good questions about this comparison tool.
Okay.
So the first one was, she's wondering, what is a heating ton? And that might be something Christopher can explain.
Yep, so a ton for a heat pump, whether it's in heating or cooling, 1 ton equals 12,000 BTU. So if you have a 2-ton system, that would be a 24,000 BTU system. Tons can also be broken up into halves and quarters. And so sometimes you might have a 2.5-ton system or something like that, which is 30,000 BTU.
And just for frame of reference, if you've got a new room over your garage and you're just trying to heat that 200 or 300 square foot room, about what size would you expect for a single unit, perhaps?
Yeah, it depends on, how much exposure that room is, how well weatherized that space is. And again, ask for heat load calculations from your contractor, but you might see something in the realm of a ton. Plus or minus a little bit, usually for a space like that.
Okay, very good.
And she had also asked, about this particular one, how to find contractors in Nahant, which I believe is in Essex County. So Deborah, for that, you just go here, and instead of Plymouth County, you go down to Essex, apply.
You might want to uncheck Plymouth.
Yeah. Okay.
There you go.
Right up here are the most common contractors in that area.
Excellent. So it is a nice little tool, even though it doesn't have up-to-date information. It still has very relevant information that was in use until the COVID lockdown at the very least. So, so let's take it now to our use and care of your system, maximizing the energy efficiency. You know, we did find a great little video that we want to share now from a group in Maine that did just a wonderful 5-minute video. If everyone will bear with this, you will learn a lot about running your new heat pump system.
A ductless heat pump can be a cost-effective way to keep your home comfortable year-round. Rapid advances in technology have made it possible for many homeowners to meet most or even all of their annual heating needs with high-efficiency heat pumps. Efficiency Maine has 13 tips to help you get the most out of your heat pump. Tip number 1, set your thermostat for comfort. Set your heat pump thermostat to the temperature that makes your home feel most comfortable. Because heat pumps measure temperature at a different height than traditional thermostats, this may be a higher setting than you're used to. Tip number 2, minimize changes to the temperature setting. Once you have set your heat pump to a comfortable temperature, we recommend that you leave the temperature setting alone. Heat pumps are designed to maintain a steady temperature, so don't adjust the thermostat frequently like you may have done with your previous system. Unlike your central heating system, a heat pump may use more energy if you turn it down at night or when you're away for the day. Leaving your thermostat constant for the season can help you get the most savings from your heat pump. Tip number 3, avoid auto mode. Set your heat pump mode to heat in winter and cool in summer. Avoid using auto mode, as this could cause the system to heat on a cool summer night or cool on a sunny winter afternoon. Tip number 4, prioritize your heat pump. If you have more than one heating system, you can maximize your savings by prioritizing your heat pump. Do this by setting your other system's thermostat at least 10 degrees cooler than your heat pump. The more you rely on your heat pump, the more you'll save. Tip number 5, maximize the heating zone of your heat pump. If you have more than one heating system, maximize the area heated by your heat pump by making sure doors are open between the room with the heat pump and the other rooms you want to heat. Conversely, close doors between your heat pump and rooms you don't want heated to keep the heat where you want it. Tip number 6, optimize airflow direction. Optimize the heating and cooling effects of your heat pump by controlling where the fan blows. Generally speaking, you're best off directing warm air towards the floor and away from occupants, and directing cool air up or directly at occupants. Experiment to see what works best for you. Tip number 7, optimize fan setting. Though we recommend avoiding the heating-cooling auto mode, we recommend using auto fan mode, at least to begin with. If auto fan mode doesn't circulate enough air to heat or cool the desired rooms, try a fixed speed that meets your needs. For a bigger area, you may need to set your fan to a higher setting. Tip number 8, expect new sounds. Heat pumps are remarkably quiet. Most of the time, they are nearly silent, but sometimes you may hear soft gurgling or clicking noises. These sounds are a normal part of heat pump operation. Tip number 9, don't worry about idling. Heat pumps enter idle mode when they reach their target temperature or need to defrost. The indoor fan will keep running at a very low speed, even though the system is not providing heating or cooling. This is normal and temporary. The unit will restart when there is a call for more heating or cooling, or when the defrost cycle has completed. Tip number 10, watch for indicator lights. If you see blinking indicator lights, consult your user manual to learn what they mean. On some models, the color of the lights and the frequency of blinking are what indicates a specific condition. Tip number 11, clean your dust filters. Heat pumps work best when dust filters are clean. Vacuum or rinse and dry the dust filters whenever they become visibly dirty or when the indicator light comes on. The frequency of cleaning can range from weeks to months, depending on use and dust volume. If your model has an allergen cartridge, be sure to wash or replace it at the interval the manufacturer recommends. Tip number 12, keep your outdoor unit clear. Check your outdoor unit periodically and clear away snow, plants, leaves, or debris that may impede airflow to the unit. Tip number 13, have your heat pump serviced. Consider manufacturers' recommendations about hiring a heat pump service professional to clean and service your unit every 1 to 2 years. Regular maintenance can help ensure peak performance. This concludes our list of tips for getting the most out of your ductless heat pump. A printable copy of these tips is available on our website. For more information about home heating or ductless heat pumps, please visit efficiencymain.com.
All right, I just loved that video, and this brings us to our next, actually last biggest issue, and that has to do with changing your heating habits. We have been raised to turn thermostats down, and to the point where we started doing it automatically with programmable thermostats. So with heat pumps, that's a totally different situation, and this video really brought that out. So Christopher, you have a whole slide on this, this unlearning that we have to do. You are muted, there you go.
Yeah, thank you. So I wanted to just kind of rehash some of my favorite ones from that video that they talked about, and just I kind of call this slide like what to unlearn. And so heat pumps are different than traditional systems like boilers and furnaces, and there are a few things you may need to unlearn about how to operate them effectively and get the most out of your new investment. So like the first tip was, don't worry about the reading. So a heat pump measures the ambient room temperature differently than your old heating system. It's up higher and it does sense the heat temperature up there. And so you set your heat pump more to what you find to be the comfortable temperature, and just kind of adjust the setting up and down over the course of a few days until you find what that temperature is. And so basically pay a little less attention to what the number is on that controller and more about what feels comfortable in this space. So when you're kind of first using your unit, think about it that way instead of setting it to whatever you were used to setting it for your backup system. So in the area you're using your heat pump, it was talking about how you can like optimize your use between your maybe say you have an existing boiler or something at your house. Mm-hmm. Turn your old thermostat, 10 degrees lower than you used to. And if you used to have it set to 68, set it to 58. And this allows your old system to technically become the backup heat source. And if the area gets chilly during a severe cold snap, don't be afraid to turn the old thermostat up temporarily. But this way, with this kind of staging of the two systems, you can maximize the use of your heat pump and see how much it can do. And you can try to keep doors open with seeing it to see if the ductless unit can provide heating to that area. Or if you don't want the heat to go to that area, keep the door shut, like they said in the video. And this way, you're just preventing the existing system you have in your house from competing with the heat pump. And so rely on the heat pump as much as you can. It's going to do your heating more efficiently and at a lower cost for you than the backup system likely would be able to. And if you match up your heating zones to where you have installed the heat pump, which is a great way to kind of go about it, or displacing a whole zone of heat. If you have multiple zones in you can use this strategy to help the two systems work together instead of competing. And then don't fuss with it every day. So you may have lowered your temperature, like Sandy was saying, with your old heating system when you went to work or at night. Heat pump is different. It reaches peak efficiency by maintaining a set temperature. So go find that right setting that leaves you comfortable in the house and pretty much just leave it alone and let it do its thing. There are exceptions though, of course. If you're going to be out of the house for more than 24 hours, go ahead and turn it down. All right, and don't go easy on your heat pump. So the best way to benefit from a heat pump's superior efficiency is to use it for as much heating as it can handle. And you can experiment by, opening the doors with the zone, turning up the fan on the unit to see if it can blow air and warmth or cooling farther somewhere else in your house. You might be surprised by how much space a heat pump can actually heat for you. Like it said, don't use auto mode. So it's okay to use the auto fan mode, like they were saying, but the auto mode for heat and cool, I'd watch out for that one. Again, set it to heat in the wintertime, set it to cool in the summertime, and auto fan mode is okay. And don't use the lowest fan speed. So strange but true, a heat pump works most efficiently when the fan speed on the inside unit is set to a higher fan speed. Of course, the higher fan speed can make a little bit more ambient noise. So whatever you're comfortable with, get used to setting it to that, and that can help you the heat moving around more efficiently in the space or the cool. Don't forget to keep up on maintenance. Like I said, the unit free of debris, snow, and ice. And so with your contractor and finding a suitable place for where that unit could go, you want to avoid from putting a place where snow drifts always show up in the wintertime. So things like that you may be aware of, the contractor may not. Work together with them to try to find a spot that makes sense to put that condenser outside. And then if you do have a backup heating system, don't worry too much about an ideal swap over point. And so, a swap over point, what is that? That's the exact temperature below which it costs less to run your backup system than it does to run your heat pump. And so that's not easy to figure out. It does, since it depends on the backup fuel, the heat pump model you have, electricity rates, and many other factors. And so it's just good rule of thumb, use your heat pump as much as possible, unless your backup heating fuel is a very affordable one, like natural gas, as we've been saying. There aren't enough super cold hours in the year for your heat pump in cold weather to make a swap over point worth worrying about, especially if you have something like oil or propane or electric resistance. And so, yeah, that's a good video, good one to refer to now and again, especially if you purchase a heat pump.
Very good. Well, we're going to go to our last slide here, but while this slide is up, we're going to keep that up for a while with all of the contact information that people can see at the end of this presentation. But we're going to stay on here for at least just a few minutes to answer any remaining questions that we haven't answered yet. We're going to answer specific questions, but I want everyone to realize that if we hadn't gotten to your question and it's very specific to your own situation, definitely reach out to Christopher, schedule a time to talk, and tell him what you're planning or what your thoughts are. This is real help that we wanted to make sure that our customers get when they're looking at this new technology. And also, we don't forget to learn more about future New Technology Today workshops by signing up for our online messenger newsletter. We'll include all of that information online in the newsletter, and we try to put it in our printed newsletter, but it might be a little bit late for you to sign up by that point. We have some more questions here, but I'm going to stop and ask Kyle for a minute if he has any outstanding questions that you think we haven't answered.
Yeah, I haven't noticed anything outstanding. We got to a few during it. Deborah had a couple questions about Abode. She wanted to know how Abode is compensated.
And again, as I mentioned earlier, we have a partnership that we pay for consulting services, and we do that out of our budgeted funds, and all of those funds come from every customer's payments to us. So that said, what that means is that we get revenues from all of the electricity and natural gas that we sell to customers or provide to customers. And we develop a budget from that, and our residential conservation services budget covers this activity. I think I also saw a question in there about matching up this technology to other alternative forms of electricity, including solar. And I want to bring up that point as well. We've talked to other customers about if you are installing solar, you might want to consider other forms of use of electricity in your home, such as electric vehicle charging, electric heat in particular, and this form of it is specifically. So yes, it does match up very well for those that already have solar or considering solar installation at their home. I know that we usually, the big question that I haven't seen posted here, but it was posted earlier before we came on, and that was about the cold weather. Christopher, do you have any anecdotal information about how these systems perform in the coldest weather? I know it's kind of hard for people to believe when they remember the older heat pump systems, and the electric heating element that used to be inside is what they used to call a backup. And their electric bills would go through the roof for about 2 or 3 months during the winter. But things are different now.
Yeah, they are. We should have had a poll question on this. It'll be difficult to do it now, but if you were to guess, which state in our area has the highest uptake of heat pumps per capita, and the answer is actually Maine. So Maine is actually adopting heat pumps faster than everybody else, and they have a much colder climate than us up there. They are readily installing heat pumps as the sole source of heat in homes all over the place up there. And so if they can do it, I think we definitely can too.
Wonderful. Someone mentioned that they have propane, and we did see on that chart that that they could save around 70% generally compared to propane costs. Because propane, which is an oil distillate, it's comparable to oil heat, except you have to make it from oil. So therefore it's an added cost. I can tell you that right now, that propane's a more expensive heat source than natural gas, say. So you definitely would be saving a lot more with heat pump, air source heat pumps in our territory. And I think we've covered a lot of the questions that I've seen coming in. I think, and one more, the skeptical person that will always be looking at this and saying, is it really a set it and forget it? Does it really work well that way and efficiently that way? It's kind of another one of those hard to believe that we're at that point now where we don't need setback thermostats and all of that.
Yeah, so the way a heat pump is operating is they actually run for long periods of time, and they like to maintain a specific temperature to do that. And so consider it like putting your car in like cruise control, right? Depending on what's going on the highway, the car is going to adjust, how much gas it's providing to the motor to maintain a speed of 65 miles per hour. It's the same sort of idea with the heat pump. They like to just film a temperature, and they find a really efficient way to maintain that for you. And so adjusting it overnight and such can be less efficient because of something called like the recovery rate of that temperature isn't as fast as the recovery rate for fossil fuel systems, which are kind of more, they're kind of like on off, where they're blasting 100% of their heat, especially the older ones, or none at all. Whereas a heat pump, what it's doing is just providing a little bit of heat to maintain what that room needs at a given time. And that's why they're so efficient. But if you try to treat it like a fossil fuel system, it's going to actually reduce the overall efficiency and cost you more. I hope that answers that question.
That is a great analogy, and I have used that in the past in other ways, but I've talked to people recently about the fact that I use cruise control in my car far more than I ever have before in situations like highway and so forth, because they have optimized, the technology has optimized the use of gasoline. And I still have a gasoline engine, but it is amazing how much more mileage I get as a result of using cruise control and not trying to punch the gas myself. We don't have that kind of calibration in our bodies, and the machinery does it very, very well. The speeds of the motors and all of that, they do it beautifully. And that's where we're at now with these heating systems. keeping them at an optimal temperature, in particular this technology, is exactly that. It's that kind of a set it and forget it cruise control idea. And I find that it really does work. So we've got a question now about our rebates expiring. And also I'm going to blend with that a question of timing. First of all, our rebates, Middleborough Gas and Electric Department has a budget. And we have to, we can continue all year long until the budget funds are expended. And then we approve a budget for the new year and replenish those funds. And we have raised those funds for this kind of activity for many years now. We've gone 200, 300% more than we've ever done just a few years ago. So I want to say that at this point in time, it doesn't look, we probably will expend our funds this year. I'm not seeing a rate yet where I'm going to worry that we won't have enough funding for rebates for people who are installing this technology this year. But that said, I have gotten a question about, do we think that more grant funding is coming, or even better technology? We know, those of us who have been around long enough, that you don't want to, you know, go for a CD anymore because they just don't. Forget that videotape. What are you going to do with all your videotapes? This technology is constantly evolving, and we want to definitely install something that's not going to be, you know, no longer in use in, you know, a few years. That's one issue. It's a technological issue. The other issue is, don't we see more funding for grants and support coming down the road? Does this mean that we should be waiting? You know, that's the kind of conversation I'm hearing now. What do you think, Christopher?
I think it's a great time to adopt heat pumps. I'm shopping for a house right now, and I can't wait to put heat pumps in whatever house I end up buying. And so they're very efficient. They're very great. There may be some improvements down the line as far as those like air to water heat pumps. But, you know, I don't really know what that looks like yet. And, you know, maybe something comes out that can heat the hot water hot enough that you could put it, you know, as a 1-for-1 swap out for a boiler. But I don't know how efficient that unit's going to be. Is it going to be as efficient as these systems we have right now? I'm not really sure. I don't know how well performing they're going to be. So if you have an opportunity or a good spot in your house that you're already aware of that could be a good candidate for an air-to-air heat pump, I think it's a great time to pull the trigger. The rebates are great right now. And yeah, I think it's a good time for it. The cost of fuel is only going to get higher. And, you know, there's no guarantee as far as, you know, what might be out there in the future. So what we have right now is really suitable for the climate and such. I think it's a great time.
Fantastic. We also, we're getting some questions about new construction. Would you work with a customer who's putting a new home in, for instance, to consult with them about what's going to be going into their home?
Yeah, so we operate in Middleborough at no cost, and so we're happy to consult with you about whatever you're doing in Middleborough and Lakeville and such. We do operate in some other towns in the greater Boston area as well, so if you happen to be in one of those towns, we could also do it at no cost. If it's outside of one of those areas and you do want to use us as your consultants, it would be more of a market rate scenario. But we, you know, depending on what you're looking for, we may be able to help you with that as well.
Good. We're wondering too if there are any more, I don't know if you've heard of this, any more low or no interest financing programs. Generally, in order to qualify for low or no interest financing programs, the state needs to get involved. So I'm going to jump in on this one. Krista, if you've heard anything, let me, you know, go ahead and jump in. But
I know there's stuff people are working on that's coming, no guarantees, and it could be years. I don't know. It could be a year. It could be 3 years. I don't know how far out this financing is how long it's going to take. But I know people are working at it at state levels, at federal levels, but I don't know yet.
I know, and we're in a kind of a strange time right now where we know that things are happening, and they're happening in terms of support. The state of Massachusetts has allowed municipal light plant customers to get some financing available to them for solar programming, for instance. Now that we started rebating, matching our rebate to the state grant funds. We haven't gotten to this point yet on heat pumps, but that is something that's being investigated. So it is a possibility that within a year, I can keep my fingers crossed, but within a year, we'll be meeting some guidelines for the state Department of Energy Resources, where they will allow some participation in low and no cost financing for MLP customers. That's not the case right now. And honestly, when I went and looked at the zero interest loan or low cost interest loans online available for other utility customers, non-MLP customers, I can tell you that there were no funds there. And I think part of that has to do with, I hate to say it, the shutdown that we had in the last year and the revenues falling and depleting all of these resources at the state level. I expect that they're going to be replenished, but we don't know when, and we can't count on it. So I don't want to end on a bad note though. So we want to say that again, here are all of your great contacts. These are all of the, if you want to come back and look at these individual videos that we put up, and definitely go to the Efficiency Maine website. They have a lot of great tips because, as Christopher said, it's the Mainers that are putting in a lot more heat pumps than Massachusetts right now. So yes, indeed, they will work in cold weather climates.
Yeah, we got to catch up.
Yeah, we're going to catch up, definitely. Well, so I want to say thank you very much to everyone attending. We're so glad you took part of your Earth Day to listen to all of the information we have on heat pumps and the rebates offered by Middleborough Gas and Electric Department. Remember to get your energy audit first. Thank you very much, Christopher, for spending so much time with us tonight. Kyle, behind the scenes, thank you for running all of this. This was fantastic. It worked beautifully. And thank you to everybody watching out there. If you have questions, you can always visit mged.com and learn a lot more about all of the other technologies. We have another New Tech Today technology webinar session coming up in May. I believe it's May 20th, but please keep your eyes peeled for that. You'll be learning all about that. And that's to do with our solar program in their current form on June 30th. So we want everyone to pay attention to that if you're interested in solar. But for now, thank you all. Have a wonderful rest of your Earth Day, and hope to see you all soon. Thank you.